And now, the Lowdown, with economist and political strategist Elson Low.
Good day, folks. Good day, and welcome to the Lowdown. Thank you for joining me this evening. Thank you for being here on the Lowdown. You know that we love to start our Saturday night on a high here with your host, Elson Low. So thank you for joining us tonight. Folks, share the link, share that link. Let's give everyone a chance to see the show. Let's bring everyone in. We're going to have, we always have a fun show. We're going to have a show that has quite a few memes of the week, quite a few things to discuss, but also deals with some of the really concerning things
the
government is doing on the
with
economic
economist
front.
and political
So,
strategist
folks,
Elson
tune in,
Low.
just share that link, and we'll get rolling into the show, folks. Share that link. Folks, first of all, we apologize for not having the show for a couple of weeks. We've had some technical difficulties here and there. You may note that we've got a new background. The show is coming to you live from Greece. No, I'm just joking there, folks. But we do have a new background here. We keep it fresh here on the Lowdown. So thank you for tuning in. We're actually going to be discussing a couple of things here tonight on the Lowdown. We're gonna talk about some of the unfortunate things we're seeing on the roadways in terms of the quality of the road works and what we're seeing in terms of potholes and so on. We're gonna have a quick chat about that. We're going to also talk a bit about the oil and gas industry and the audit of oil and gas expenses, which is an issue that has persisted for quite some time and is really a vital issue. It has actually continued to be controversial, and we've been talking about it for some time, so we'll give you the latest updates on that. We'll just touch on the claims, the voter impersonation, voter fraud issue that we've seen all weekend and the past several days. I'm sure that you viewers have been seeing these issues raised, and it really is a massive headache. We'll just touch on that, though. We want to give you guys a bit of a break from that and talk about some economic issues, but we'll just brush on that. And then, of course, folks, we're gonna chat a little bit about these chicken coop houses that are utterly ridiculous, folks. We're gonna go through it, and we're gonna have ourselves a little chat about that. So welcome to the Lowdown. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a part of the show. We're here tonight. Always excited to be here with you. Thank you for starting your Saturday night on a high with Elson Low. Myself, Elson Low. Welcome to the Lowdown. Folks, share that link as we get ready to roll here. Share that link, and we'll move into the memes of the week shortly. So just share that link. Let's give everyone a chance to see the show. Good to be here with you. We've got several memes of the week we're going to discuss today. We're going to range from GPL to looking at the roadways, to looking at some of the construction that's going on around town. Lots and lots to discuss here tonight, folks. So share that link, share the link, and we'll get rolling in just a second. So welcome to the Lowdown, and we're gonna get rolling, folks. You know our first section, memes of the week. We always try to have some fun. So the operator can throw up the first meme of the week, and we'll roll on into it. It should be entertaining. Oh no, folks. The S in the Starbucks is already gone. I know that many Guyanese are looking forward to Starbucks coffee being here in Guyana. It's a delight that many who may have traveled have been able to sample. But after only a couple of days in Guyana, the S is already gone. really, really unfortunate. I don't know what has caused this to happen. People are saying maybe there was a low voltage or something. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to cast any blame on GPL. Who knows? However, it is unfortunate that after only a couple of days, already a problem with the site. But on the flip side, we're happy to have to see the Guyanese are having opportunities to try new things, and many of the brands that are popular around the world. I'm sure that there'll be more of these types of brands, and we can only say that we hope that the signs for the other brands hold up a little bit better than this one. So starting you off on a light note there, folks. Starting you off on a light note. But as we bounce across, not too far from this location, I think we've got an issue with the road, so the operator could throw up that. So this is, just a little further down the road, Starbucks being at the Amazonia Mall, and then this being the road at Grove, or I don't know if you would call it a road. Look at that, whoa, my. Is that a parapet or what's going on there? Man, let's I think there's one more shot of it. Oof. Now, folks, I could be wrong, but it strikes me that is a safety hazard. Doesn't that look like a safety hazard to you? Could easily end up turning over or smacking into some other car or being or getting stuck in that ginormous hole. Goodness me, folks, looking at that car right down the street, doesn't it look like it could fit into that hole? That's how big the hole is. Doesn't it look like the guy who's walking there could lie down in the hole and you wouldn't even be able to see him? It's that deep. Goodness me, and this is in the Grove area. Now, folks, you may recall that the Grove area the road has been redone 2 times in the past couple of years. I was actually arguing with someone. They said, oh no, it's only one time it was redone. And then when they reflected on it, it's been redone twice. This is really a vital road, as of course you have to traverse it in order to get to the airport. Can you imagine coming from the airport late at night and you run into something like this? Unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. But unfortunately quite classic in Guyana, isn't it? These are the types of ridiculous things we're seeing. Folks, we take this opportunity to remind you that the budget this year is $782 billion. And that is around about 40% bigger than the budget of last year. The infrastructure budget is, I think, $135 or $139 billion. That's just for roads, bridges, and drains. Just those items, 130 something billion dollars. Goodness. And this is what we have to put up with here in Guyana. You'd think that if we're spending more, we'd see better works, and we'd see more comprehensive works being done. But we've got a massive hole there. I don't know what caused that, maybe an excavator or something, but it looks to me to be a safety hazard, and so it's, I think, totally unacceptable. So, folks, that's not looking great in the Grove area there, folks. So watch out, be careful, keep your eyes open. I know that on Sheriff Street there was also quite a substantial hole that caused a bit of concern earlier, and I believe that it is either the contractor or someone in the area has come out to say that they will fix that hole. But this is a serious issue. We're gonna bounce into a couple of these memes in just a second, there, folks. The question many Guyanese are asking themselves is, how can we be spending so much more money and getting what feels like, often in some cases, worse quality works? In fact, I was remarking to someone the other day that it feels like the roads, even under the 23 years the PDP was last in office, feels like the roads used to last a bit longer then. But no, not no. It's just last year, 2 mornings. Now, one of the other things that's important to note about that Grove Road, I don't know if you've driven on it much, but it tends to be half of it is higher than the other half. You got like on the right-hand side might be high, and then the left-hand side there's a drop-off. That seems very dangerous to me. I don't know what is going on there. And you're thinking that if they're going to do a road, they should do the road properly rather than having half up, half down. And, it's something that you've seen over a period of time. It's not just over 1 night, 2 nights you're seeing this road like this, but over a period of time, that's how the road has been done. Highly problematic. Of course, it's a vital roadway. Also, I would say that for the people in the area, there's a question around whether there are any health negatives that could be coming from this road. Remember when they're doing this constant construction, there's a lot of dust and sand and so on. I don't know if you recall, having traveled on that road, seeing quite a lot of dust and sand. Of course, you've got the big trucks as well that are putting a lot of pressure on the road. But that can't be healthy. It can't be healthy to live there, not at all. I just stopped at a restaurant there once, and man, the table, this roadside table, was covered in dust. Covered in dust. That can't be good. That can't be safe. Really unfortunate that we're seeing that in the Grove area. And that is something that needs to be dealt with properly. And of course, when we say it needs to be dealt with properly, we remind you that this is the second time the road has been redone in only a couple of years. Folks, you may recall that we've had conversations around road works, and we've said that roads are a good road, reasonably done road, is supposed to last you something like 20 years. If you've had to redo a road twice in only a couple of years, then can you see how that is a massive, massive loss? First of all, in terms of the money spent, and second of all, in terms of the economy, because you've got a road that should be functioning properly, not functioning that way at all, and so massive delays and accidents and whatnot can result. Folks, really, we were, given that this road has been redone twice, we're not supposed to really be touching this road for another 40 years probably. But is everything in Guyana really, are we seeing things being done to the standard that would reasonably be expected? Do we understand what the government is doing here to ensure that things are put right? Or what the government, shall we say, is not doing to ensure things are put right? Road is supposed to last you 20 years, folks. Not 1 year, not 2 years. In fact, someone from the government was saying that there's currently a contractual liability for 1 year for any defects. So if the contractor builds the road and it's not any good at the end of the year, then you can go back to the contractor and say, well, what's going on with this road? You have to fix your errors. But folks, I didn't say that roads are expected to last for 1 year. I said that roads are expected to last for 20 years. And so, even with a 1 year, let's call it a 1 year warranty, that is not at all satisfactory, right? Because we're supposed to be looking at a road lasting for 20 years. So maybe we should see a 5-year guarantee or maybe a 3-year guarantee at least. But there you go, highly problematic. And residents of Grove really in a dangerous position because, like I said, if you're driving late at night, you could easily hit that. If you're driving and there's someone driving erratically and you try to swerve out of the way, you could easily hit that, turn your car upside down. Goodness me, folks. All right, let's bounce across to the next meme of the week as we keep on keeping on here, folks. Okay. Facebook, what's on your mind? Me. I wonder who designed GPL power grids. Goodness me. And then someone is making a second joke, the man who keep hitting the pole. So, one of the problems that we often see in Guyana with GPL is that people will hit main electrical poles, and that will cause massive blackouts right down the coast to the Demerara-Berbice interconnected system. This is very, very problematic and very troubling, and it costs millions and millions of dollars in terms of lost productivity every hour for every time that something like this happens. Hugely problematic every time something like Rather that, as Guyana develops and as we spend more money, have these bigger budgets, folks, we take this opportunity to remind you that the national budget is $782 billion. Only a few years ago, it was $300 and something billion. Now it is double that, folks. We take this opportunity to remind you that the government has spent all of this money, 40% more than last year, and last year they spent 40% more than the previous year in the main budget, and yet blackouts are getting worse. In the past couple of weeks, there are stretches where it felt like you're getting blackout every single day. Blackouts have gotten so much worse, and so someone is saying, who designed this grid? But more than that, you would think, again, just as with the roads, you would think that as Guyana gets more money, we spend more money, things would be moving in the right direction. We even are seeing the government invest billions of US in a natural gas plant to produce more electricity here in Guyana. But here is what is really entertaining about this entire thing, folks. How is it that the government is focusing on producing more electricity when the problem when it comes to blackouts in Guyana is not that we're not generating electricity, we're generating electricity. It's that the grid is extremely fragile and the slightest thing causes a massive blackout. One example being what the person is referring to in this meme, which is that people keep hitting the electrical poles. Now GPL has said they're considering having people who hit the poles pay the cost of repairing them. But what we should also bear in mind is that there's a cost not just of repairing the pole, but a cost to the entire economy due to a blackout. Of course, people cannot work when there's a blackout. Many jobs are at a standstill. So what needs to happen is that we need to look at the system and address these issues by carrying out studies to see what exactly needs to be shifted. We cannot allow our system to be so vulnerable going forward, because it would be, and this is, it's sad to say, but it seems like this is exactly what's going to happen, that you're going to produce more electricity but have just as many blackouts. It seems like that's what's going to happen. Now, we'll see. The government, I believe, has put forward some indication that they want to do a study on this. Let's see, but it's just crazy that that wasn't a first priority, an immediate priority, once we started having access to additional funds. It seems like that would be one of the main, given that it's a huge driver of productivity loss, a huge driver of loss to the business community, a huge nuisance for Guyanese, blackouts. Given that that's the case, we'd want to ensure that that's a first priority. But of course, the government not really looking at those types of things. They're just focusing on where they can enrich their friends, family, and favorites, rather than focusing on things that are important and getting the basics right. Are we really going to have a country? Are we really going to have a country which is producing lots and lots of electricity, which has tremendous oil revenues, but which has non-stop blackouts? Is that what's going to happen? And then everybody, has to get a generator. Is that how things are going to be? Another way to look at it is that you could argue that those in the government, because they have access to generators, they don't particularly care. They don't particularly care if there's a blackout, because of course it doesn't affect them. They just automatically switch over to their generator. Could be that that is what is going on, folks. How heartless, how selfish is that? To just let the average Guyanese be out there suffering with blackouts because it doesn't affect you. But, are we surprised? Not particularly surprised, right? This is very classic behavior from the government. But, we want to see GPL move in the right direction. We want to see GPL improve. We want to see these grids dealt with properly. And we want to ensure that we have a stable power supply in Guyana, even if that power is not necessarily for industrial use, because you can look at producing electricity cheaply for industrial purposes, okay. But I think citizens would certainly prefer having stable power over having cheap power. Can you imagine having, yes, electricity is much cheaper than it is, all right, but you keep having blackouts? If you can't access the cheap electricity, what is the point of having cheaper electricity? If you cannot access the cheaper electricity, then it's of no use to you anyway. The first priority should be ensuring that you have a stable, reliable grid, so that once you produce electricity, you can actually get the electricity to people. What's the point of putting up a whole big power plant and then same story as before? It's, I think, obviously ridiculous. And Guyanese are so frustrated at what's going on with GPL. So frustrated at what's going on. And that's why people are coming out and making their statements. They're blaming the Starbucks sign and all on GPL, folks. We don't know why the Starbucks sign, why it was damaged. We don't know. But people are out here blaming the Starbucks sign. The S is now working. People say it's high voltage or low voltage below the S. I don't know that. I don't believe that to be true. However, maybe GPL will want to look at it and get an assessment of what exactly has happened. But there you go. I wonder who designed the GPL power grids. Goodness. All right, let's bounce across as we continue our memes of the week. I told you we got a couple of things to go over tonight, folks. All right, someone else. Green spaces are being replaced by concrete across Georgetown, and this is indeed the case. Now, there's a lot of benefits people have been saying of having green spaces. One being the obvious one, that plants absorb the carbon dioxide and produce the oxygen that we all breathe. So that's very useful to us. Two being that those types of spaces can absorb water, therefore thereby helping to reduce flooding in the city. Those are some of the things that are being mentioned. But they're bricking up and concreting everything that they can possibly get their hands on, as far as we can tell, which is quite unfortunate. It's not necessarily the most environmentally friendly way to approach things. In fact, some of you may know that concrete products and so on actually contribute. I think it's about 8% of all emissions. In fact, those types of products contribute more than the total emissions of all shipping and of all airplanes in the world, just concrete emissions. So it shouldn't be that we look to concrete everything in sight when we have an opportunity to do so. Rather, we should look to be more cognizant of that. It is particularly ironic that, for a monument, or I guess you could say a statue, depicting leatherback turtles, I believe, and environmentally conscious thinking, you would have a non-environmentally conscious choice. But this is what you're seeing all over Georgetown. Let's flip over to the next slide, because we've got another example here of what's going on. So this is where, I don't know if you can quite see them there, viewers, but right on Precision Road, there's a couple of trees that have died recently. And it is being remarked that because that area has blocked all of the drains around the trees, isolating them from water, the trees have died. Those that have access to water are blooming and lush, and those two have died. Now, again, this is concerning because trees play an important role environmentally, just like grass and so on. They absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen, help to make the environment fresh, but they also help to filter the water supply and do things like that, prevent erosion and whatnot. So there are lots of benefits having trees in your city. And one of the things that is most ironic, which the person is pointing out in the post here, is that Georgetown is called the Garden City. So if it's the Garden City, why would you be going out of your way to kill trees? In fact, one of the things that's so hilarious, on the show we have a dark sense of humor, folks. Folks, we have a dark sense of humor. We enjoy having our. One of the things that is most concerning is that whenever the government does these so-called beautification projects, concretes up places and puts down all these brickworks and so on, what they don't put? Think about it for a second, folks. When you look at these types of efforts, when you look at all these different concreted areas, put some benches, they put various things. When you look at all these things, what do you not see? Shade. Trees. Shade. So, all of these beautification projects, all of these various ones, virtually no shade accounted for. Hardly ever any shade. Now, I don't know about you, but can you tell me the last time you sat down in the middle of the day on a hot bench with no shade? Can you recall doing that? Can you recall the last time you took a walk in a park in Georgetown in the hot sun without there being shade and you're just walking around casually, relaxing? It's almost as if you have to ask whether these parks are intended for human use. Is it just for the stray dogs and so on to be in the park? Excuse me, there, viewers. I got a call. Is it just for stray dogs to be up and down in these parks? Is that what the goal is? Because human beings cannot realistically be enjoying these parks during the day as they would be in other parts of the world. In fact, Central Park is a classic example, right? And you don't only see people in Central Park at night. In fact, you don't really see people in Central Park at night because it's dangerous. And I believe certain parts of the park are closed at night. But in the day, that particular park is filled with trees. And that's so as to encourage people to relax under the trees, enjoy themselves, and so on. Now, yes, there's heavy sun in New York, all right? Yeah, many Guyanese can attest to that who have traveled. In the summer, it's hot. But we all know that it is far hotter in Guyana. Whew. And you mean to tell me that in the place that's not as hot, you've got endless trees and so on, everything's great. And in the place that's far hotter, you're killing out trees and you're not planting trees and putting down shade. That's what's going on. Folks, spending all of this money, but what is the point of spending the money in this way? Is it that these parks are intended for human use? If they're not intended for human use, the government needs to come out and say, well, we've created some parks for dogs, for horses, some neighborhood cats. You know, that's what we're doing. If you have cats, you can release them in the park. You know, they can say something like that. But you Guyanese are not going to go. Even these walkways on Virginian Road, Guyanese really up and down on those walkways, and without there being shade, will Guyanese use those walkways? I mean, maybe once when there's a particular festival like Marsh or something. But no, not on a regular basis. That, to me, is a classic example of really poor planning by the government. And a rush to spend money without there being, thinking and strategizing and actual study of what is to be done. Just a rush to spend money and get it out the door. You know, that mentality, which is what the government has thus far, which is why you're seeing all of these very concerning projects. And we'll talk at the end of the show about one of the most concerning of the projects, and that is some of this low-income housing. We're going to talk about that. We've talked about it before. We're going to touch on it again later on in the show. Let's bounce across, and I think we're fresh out of memes here, but let's just take a quick peep. Take a quick peep and see if we got any memes left over here. Well, it's a half meme. So we've got local government elections. And you have people out here celebrating the opportunity to be a part of what the APNU is doing, and there's a lot of enthusiasm. We also saw that the PVP, showed up at a lot of local government GCOM offices. Let's go back there. We saw that PVP showed up at a lot of GCOM offices with large numbers of people with red shirts. People were thinking, oh, whoa, what's going on here? They've got a lot of support. But we heard immediately that many people were being paid to wear such shirts. And in fact, not too far from here, I saw someone say that he was paid and take off his red shirt. Duly, when in just a couple of days, we have seen so many accounts of potential voter fraud. Not quite there, operator, not quite there. So many accounts of potential voter fraud we've seen, folks. By my count, it's a couple hundred at least. And it ranges from, I think, maybe 5 different regions, right? All over the place. We're seeing this. Was it 10, 4, 5, 2, 6, all over the place. Quite a lot of these concerns. Now, the BP, of course, is, to a certain extent, is silent on these issues, but they've also, we've seen the Vice President Jack Duke come out and apologize to a family in Berbice, of all places, that actually had, dead parent was on the list. Parent signed up, so clearly somebody signed on behalf of this person who's passed away. We've seen also people with blind people say that their signatures were put there, but they never signed. You've had people abroad say that they haven't returned to Guyana in years, and their signatures are there. Several people like that. You've had even police complaint. Had even complaints be filed with the police regarding this. Now, what the leader of the opposition has said is he's called for a meeting with the chief of police to address these issues. Because really, folks, this is widespread. This is all over the place. All over the place. Now, what it shows is that there's a willingness to engage in electoral fraud. That the PVP has got a willingness to engage in electoral fraud. It's not even a big deal to them. They're just going. Dead, doesn't even matter. Not living in Guyana, doesn't even matter. Can't come and sign, doesn't even matter. They'll sign for you. And when you look at some of these things, you can see that the signatures are very, very similar. Of course, I'm not a handwriting expert, so I'll come out and say that. But I will just say that, to my eyes, those signatures of different names look real similar, like the same person was writing it over and over. Again, I'm not a handwriting expert, but that's what it looks to me, and I would like to see that investigated so that we know the truth. Let's see if anything comes out of it. But we've already seen GCOM say that they can't look into these issues. They can't look into these issues. And what's unfortunate about that is that it has shaken the faith that people had in the GCOM, because we really are looking forward to GCOM as safeguarding our elections, our electoral system. And so we'd like to see GCOM take a more active role in terms of dealing with these types of issues. Unfortunately, we've not seen GCOM do anything much, and what they've actually said is they're going right ahead with local government elections, despite these huge accusations. And in fact, folks, from the time that we see you see a report being filed with the police about electoral fraud, about these types of things, then you have to take something like that, I would think, very seriously, because it is not just hearsay. Someone has filed a report with the police. There's going to be an active investigation of this, and therefore you should look to see whether or not those signatures should be removed and that candidate should be removed. That's a very serious issue indeed. But anyway, we don't want to dwell too much on local government elections, because we know that you've been hearing so much about it. You've been hearing so many concerning things. It's just sad, and we got to keep a close eye on it. Another thing we got to do, it's probably obvious, is folks, we got to keep an eye to see if any of these dead people vote. All right, let's jump on across to the next topic here as we keep going. Let's jump on across. All right, so we're going to jump to, this is a picture of the FPSO. We're going to jump. There we go. So the FPSO, folks, we talk a lot about oil on this show. We got to talk about oil. The vast majority of the economy is oil, so we got to talk about it. We got to know oil like we knew bauxite, sugar, rice. We got to know it like the back of our hand. Now, what we're seeing in the oil industry is a lot of controversy around the audit of these oil and gas expenses. And I know that an audit might sound kind of like a dreary topic, audit. But really, the key issue is whether or not GAN is being overcharged or charged for things that shouldn't be charged for by the offshore oil companies, and whether what has gone on, and whether or not that has meant that GAN has gotten much less oil revenue than it would otherwise have gotten. And you may say, that sounds like a few million here or there. A 10 million, a 12 million. No, folks. When you look at it with the current audit that's being undergone, which we forced the government to carry out, you're looking at something like maybe 900 million US. 900 million US. And in fact, the audit that the Coalition Commission, which the government has been hiding, showed that there's about 214 million US that is in question, and the government may be able to recover. Now, the government had been hiding that money from the Guyanese people because they knew since 2021 that this money was available and that something could be done. Government has said, they went to check with Exxon to see, they don't know. But, 2021 and 2023, I could be wrong, but it sounds like it's 2 years to me, maybe a little bit more. Now, the government is, all this time, been trying to work along with Exxon to clear up this audit, this 214 million. Now, recently we heard the government say that they're giving Exxon, for the new audit, the second audit, 2 months to respond. So if it only takes 2 months to respond, why were you hiding that audit for the 2 years? What's going on there? Why were they hiding that 214 million US? Now, the vice president has come out with some personal attacks on me as we address these types of issues. Call it this, call it that. But one thing that you viewers who've been watching the Lowdown, and we thank you for watching the Lowdown faithfully, one thing that we'd want to point out to you is, we've been having this show for a year. We've been talking about these issues for a year. And all of a sudden, there's this need to attack on a personal level. Kind of makes it seem like we are correct, and that the government is really worried. Doesn't it kind of seem that way? We've spoken for, thousands of minutes on these shows on various issues like this one, and now the government riles up. But this 214 million, of course, the government tries to bring up, 20 million signing bonus, 18 million rather, and they try to say, the coalition was hiding that. But that signing bonus was, first of all, put in the Bank of Guyana. So if you're going to steal money, I don't know why you'd put it in the Bank of Guyana. And the second thing is multiple signatories. And the money was, of course, used for Guyana's court case in Venezuela. Now, given that it was used for Guyana's court case in Venezuela, and we've seen so far some progress on that front, it would look like the money has been put to good use. But, I like to bring it up and say that the coalition was hiding this money. But folks, that's 20 million US. We're talking about, in the first instance, 214 million US, more like 10 times more. We're also talking about a further 900 million US. Folks, the government likes to make these, the PPP likes to make these false equivalence arguments. So they do the same thing, they're just like us. They try to make these types of arguments. But folks, first of all, if you're going to steal money, you don't put it in the Bank of Guyana. Okay, that's the first thing. Where everybody and the money can see the money, and the money is transparent. The second thing is, why were they hiding this $214 million for all this time? Why? Why were they hiding this money? And now we've got $900 million that's on the line with new audit. They weren't even going to audit Exxon. We had to force them to audit Exxon to uncover this money. Then we're now we had to speak about them actually even releasing the audit. Try to get them to commit to releasing the audit so people can see it. In fact, we had to say that not auditing Exxon should be a criminal offense, and to say that hiding the results of an audit of Exxon and of the offshore companies should also be a criminal offense. So now, all right, government's going to audit. Government is carrying out the audits, and the first audit has been leaked. But the first audit has indicated there's a lot of problems with data, or data has either not been provided or not or been erased due to various processes, or data has been, or there's a difficulty accessing the data. Now, of course, we don't want to say that anything nefarious is going on. But we do want to say that these things need to be properly dealt with. And that with new audits, we need to ensure that we do address these issues. We need to ensure that we have all the data that is necessary for us to properly audit these expenses. Given that, it could be $900 million on the line. 900 million US. Now, another thing that has come up as we interrogate this and push the government is that because the government missed the deadline to audit, so these documents are only really kept for, these documents are only really kept for 2 years, and the government missed the 2-year deadline. What has happened is the company could have discarded all of these documents. The company could easily have just tossed all the documents, and we would therefore not be able to tell if we had been overcharged and so on to the tune of 900 million US. We won't be able to tell. Now, we've raised this issue as a serious problem. Serious problem. The government is about to say, we have told the oil company that if they don't provide these documents, it's going to be trouble. We're going to deal with them. It just sounds very like an empty threat from the government. Because here's the thing, viewers. Here's the kick of this. So if the government is going to clamp down on the offshore oil companies if they don't provide documentation, if they're going to be much more strict with the regulations and deal with them in a much more strict way and try and force them to act right, if the government is going to do that, right, that's their threat. Folks, just a moment ago, we mentioned that there was a previous audit, remember the first one, the 240 million, where all these data issues came up. And so since 2021 to now, the government has known about the data issues, right? Known about these problems. And have they been strict and aggressive on Exxon to deal with these problems? No, they've been incredibly lax. Whatever, permits are granted swiftly, flaring, no serious penalties with flaring, insurance issues dealt with very lightly, no big deal. New developments approved swiftly, no big deal. All of that, folks, all of that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. And all of that has happened while they knew that there were data issues with the last audit. So if the government intended to be strict on Exxon because of data issues, they should have been strict since 2021, right? So you've got 2 years of evidence. Well, they have no intention of being strict or dealing with Exxon in any way that is tough and serious. They have no intention of that. There's evidence to show that they have no intention of that. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. Can you imagine that the government is going to come out and say, if they keep the data from us, if we see any trouble with them keeping data from us, we're going to be strict on them. We're going to deal with them. But the government already has evidence or an indication that data is not being available and that there may be some issues that need to be dealt with. So why weren't they strict all along? Why? I mean, it's pretty funny. I mean, the other thing you gotta ask is, as the government was saying this, did not occur to them that there's evidence that what they're saying is not going to be taken as seriously as they'd like. Maybe that didn't occur to them. Anyway, the other side of this is now that we do have to figure out how we're going to deal with these issues, because again, I mean, ultimately we want to ensure that Guyanese get the full benefit of the resources of this country, fully benefit. And we're going to put forward, different suggestions and ideas as to how we need to address this. But really, it needs to be dealt with seriously and with legal counsel, legal advice at a minimum, so that we are prepared in case there are any future data issues. We can't just be, letting 900 million US go by the wayside. What's 900 million? No big deal. No, that's not acceptable. 900 million US is enough to lift so many people out of poverty, raise public servants' salaries, make University of Guyana free, offer students stipends. I mean, you can do a huge amount of things with 900 million US. Huge amount of money. That is, almost 4 times, a little bit more than 4 times Skeldon, the cost of Skeldon, give or take. Or at least several times the cost of Skeldon. That 900 million US is enough money for you to, supposing that the totals were correct, enough money for you to build a whole Amalia Falls. Yeah, so it's a lot of money. 900 million US. The government's just like, the deadlines. Who needs to stick to deadlines? I mean, what are you talking about? Necessary. And now that money is in question, whether we'll be able to get that money back, whether we'll be able to know even that money is missing. Those are the questions that we have to ask. And that's why we need to see a proper audit and any other investigations that are tied to that. So that's where the government stands right now, looking hella negligent right now. That's what the government looks like, because just putting Guyana in a difficult position for no reason at all. They could have just done the audit like they were legally mandated, legally allowed to do, exercise Guyanese rights and do the audit. But no, now that's the position that we're in, and so in order to try and dig themselves out, they're attacking people on a personal level, and they're threatening the oil company, better give us these documents. Which of course is not really a credible threat, folks. It's just very unfortunate that we got to deal with these types of things in Guyana, but there you go. Anyway, we're going to keep pressing on these issues, because ultimately we got to try and do the best we can for the people of Guyana. We can't allow the government's extreme level of incompetence and corruption to run the country ragged, and we've got to make sure we get every last dime that we're due out of this oil industry, so we can make sure that you, the people of Guyana, benefit from that money. whether directly or through government services and so on. Now let's bounce across because we got another issue, folks. Oh my goodness, folks. Folks, do you remember? Do you remember this? Look at these houses, folks. They put some concrete. They've slattered some concrete over the metal, and they're building them up. What for? We I mean, it's just, folks. That's what it started off as. Well, we're actually just looking at a couple, looking at affordable housing in, those are some shots of affordable housing in other parts of the world, in the UAE and Saudi Arabia and so on. And those look pretty good, but we're going to get on to those in a second. So what we're seeing right now with this government housing, and again, billions of dollars have gone to the housing ministry. This is for low-income housing. We're seeing right now in Guyana billions of dollars being made from oil and gas revenues, to the point that here's about, right now, it's give or take, it could be a little bit more, a little bit less. About 4 million US, so is that 800, 4 million US every single day. 4 million US, folks. That is a crazy amount of money. Goodness me. 4 million US or 800 million Guyana dollars every day is being made from the oil and gas industry. Goodness me. But this is the quality of house that we're getting for that money. You can't even reach the first step. Someone mentioned to me, man, you're not seeing this thing else. Now it's so obvious. Don't you see that plank on the front there? You got a plank. Operator, bring up the full screen so that viewers can see that plank. So you got a plank running up onto the step. That's how you're supposed to get onto the front step. Goodness, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, guys. You can't make this stuff up. So instead of building a proper concrete step, what you've got is a big plank. So you walk up onto the first step, and then you climb up the rest of the concrete steps. Goodness. And you may say, oh, maybe it was a design error with this one particular house. Maybe something's wrong with this particular house. But if you look at the house right next door, and the house is right down there, all of them have the same issue. High front step. Hiya. That's what we're seeing. Folks, we take this opportunity to remind you that the budget this year is $782 billion. And that it is nearly, that is twice as big as budgets only a few years ago. 40% bigger than last year's budget. And that budget was 40% bigger than the previous year's budget. My. So the budget is getting bigger. But the houses, where is this money going? Where is the money going, folks? Do you know where this money is going? Folks, we've said over and over and over again, PUP is only concerned about its elite, its friends, its family, and its favorites. And the average Guyanese, low-income Guyanese, you just have to put up with, hey, you gotta walk on the piece of wood, get into your house. If you're not young and sprightly, I guess you're on your own. Goodness me, folks, goodness me. I mean, hey, maybe they're going to put another wood step there. But even so, why they couldn't just finish and put a nice concrete step? Why do we have to get a half wood, half concrete step? I mean, this country is not a broke country. Why are we operating in that way? We made $800 million today. But that's what we're seeing. Goodness me. Let's bounce across now to the next slide there as we continue this discussion. So now we see what it looked like before. We see beautiful home President Ali has, more power to him. But let's bounce across and look at what we're actually seeing for low-income housing in Saudi Arabia and the UAE and these types of countries. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Big multi-level apartment buildings, modern designs, spacious areas. This is what you expect to see for low-income housing in a wealthy country if you're going to do multi-level housing like this. I mean, that is even if it is necessary, but if you're going to do it, that's how it's supposed to look. Let's switch over to the next slide here. Look at that. Look at that. That is low-income country, low-income housing in these countries. And you may say, oh my God, it's Saudi Arabia, Elson. How can you compare Guyana and Saudi Arabia? Folks, we have more oil per person than Saudi Arabia. More oil per person. Yeah, the government likes to talk about little Dubai. Little Dubai. But folks, we have more oil per person than those countries. So that doesn't make us big Dubai? Hiya, look at this place. It's got a pool. It's beautiful. It's spacious. There's lots of greenery. Beautiful, beautiful. At least that could be done. But what we've said really is something that can swiftly be done is what we need to do is establish a rent-to-own housing system where the government builds good quality homes and you rent those homes and your rent goes towards paying off the cost of the home. That way you don't have to take out a loan from the bank, you don't have to have collateral, you don't have to have credit. I know the whole of Guyana owes certain places that provide furniture and so on and so forth, who will go nameless. And often people have problems with their credit when it comes to things like that. Now, if your government builds the home and you're able to move in and you just pay your rent and your rent goes towards paying off for the home, then you'll be getting an asset while at the same time we're taking care of low-income housing. That's what we're going to do. That's one of the main policies that we're going to push in terms of helping Guyanese to get housing. But in addition, we've also got a rent assistance scheme we're going to push, which is going to help Guyanese by ensuring that those who are paying rent, within certain income limits and whatnot, are able to benefit from, are able to rent without having to see their rental prices be too high. And that now will help again to provide affordable housing to Guyanese. So those are the types of proposals that we are looking at to ensure that we deal with the inequality issues. Remember, assets are a major source of inequality. We ensure that Guyanese are not pushed out of major areas like Georgetown and the other areas in the city, but are able to access living in those areas as well. And help us to deal with our anti-poverty objectives, because we've got a lot of anti-poverty objectives that we're going to deal with seriously, that we intend to deal with seriously. And that will, ensure that Guyanese are not on the street. We know that there's a housing crisis, that rents have gone through the roof in different parts of Georgetown, that property prices have gone through the roof in different parts of Georgetown. Young people are complaining that they're not able to access housing and purchase homes. Even well-to-do young people with means are complaining that they're not able to do this. Really, really sad, and it's something that we intend to deal with. Now in countries like, in places like Hong Kong, places like Canada and New Zealand and Australia at different times, you see people complaining, South Korea as well, young people complaining that they're not able to access affordable housing. We don't intend for that to be the type of crisis in Guyana that it is in many other countries where young people have no hope of being able to access this. Rather, we intend to put in place the right measures so that young people have access to housing, can get assets, and can build their lives, move forward with their lives. We want young people to succeed and be happy. We're not going to put them in a little something where they got to strain the foot to get up on the step and then they don't know what's going to happen with the house. The house is not as sturdy maybe as you would like. Or, we want to ensure people have quality places to live. This is not a poor country. Don't let the PUP sell you the lie that it is a poor country. It's not a poor country. It is a wealthy country, and we're going to ensure that all Guyanese are able to benefit from that wealth. $800 million every single day. And that's right now. oil production capacity is going to increase rapidly shortly, as we've seen an additional FPSO arrive in the country and it's now being hooked up. There's going to be even more capacity to the point that, well, that single FPSO, that single oil ship, is actually going to provide Guyanese with as much production as Trinidad, almost as much as Trinidad, in its boom years in the peak. That one ship is going to provide as much as Trinidad at the peak in the boom years, and almost twice as much as Trinidad in recent history when they were doing well, when the oil price was high. Can you imagine that? That one ship, and that's in addition to the existing ships. And of course, we've got other ships coming in. Folks, if we allow the PUP to give us nonsense and we accept low standards from the PUP, type of standards that a wealthy country would not be expecting, that's all you're going to get from them. If you allow them to give us not the highest quality standards, not the highest quality goods, if you allow them not to give us what it is that we really deserve as a country, we're not going to get what it is that we really deserve. This is a wealthy country. Don't let the PUP sell you short. And that is exactly what is going on across the spectrum. We've talked about so many things tonight. We've talked about roads, we've talked about GPL, we've talked about housing, all different areas where people are being shortchanged by PUP. We've talked about beautification projects that are, again, not living up to the standards that they should. Don't let the PUP run you down that road. See it for what it is. And, of course, we've talked about the audit of these oil expenses. We need to keep the pressure going because we need to get every last dollar that this country is due so we can spend it on the citizens of Guyana. If we leave the PUP to their own devices, they will simply not do audits. They will simply let oil and gas companies do whatever they please. They will not provide Guyanese with good services. The roads will never be properly fixed. The housing will never be good. GPL will always have blackouts. The city will never have shade for you to actually use these parks. Folks, in many different areas, obvious problems we're seeing. Obvious problems. And a total lack of commitment to dealing with those problems. That is why we have to refocus. And we have to always be pressing the government to provide the Guyanese people what it is that they deserve. We leave you with that note, folks. We leave you with that as we bring yet another episode of the Lowdown to a close. Guyana is a rich country. We should be operating like a rich country and raising our standards. On that note, thank you for joining me here on the Lowdown. It's always good to be here with you. Always good. We had a little bit of a break, but we're here. We're happy to see you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.